Let's bring in Rabbi Matthew Gewirtz, and co-founder and CEO of All In Together, Lauren Leader. Elise Jordan and Reverend Al Sharpton are back with us as well. Good to have you all on board.
So, Rabbi, the start of Passover is upon us, and yet this obviously what we just heard about what's going on at Columbia, what's going on at other college campuses across the country. It's a heavy cloud hanging over not just Jewish students at Columbia, but Jewish students everywhere. And I hear it firsthand. And it's not just Columbia, it's at colleges, especially so-called elite colleges across the country. Rabbi?
Yeah, Joe, I would say that those of us who have students in college, and two of us here do, our students are on the front lines these days. My friends in Israel say that they are as much on the front lines as folks are over there. You know, Passover is the Jewish spring holiday of redemption. It's centered around the home. We sit around a table called a Passover Seder, and through rituals, we retell the story of redemption, of God hearing the calls of our ancestors crying out in misery over 400 years, tapping Moses and Aaron and Miriam to go and help the process of redemption. But they face off with the Pharaoh, who is maniacal and narcissistic and egotistical, so much so that he allows his own people to suffer instead of doing the right thing and freeing the Israelite slaves. Finally, of course, the issue is pushed. The Israelites are allowed to escape. They come to the most famous scene in the Bible, the Sea of Reeds, which is raging, but of course is split through Moses' staff, and the process of redemption has begun. But I will tell you that this year, this is probably the toughest time I've ever had in my life trying to mark this celebration. Reading the Passover story is oh too real. After all, we have well over 130 hostages in torture and slavery in Gaza by modern-day pharaohs, a modern-day pharaoh called Hamas, who, as you said, comes in on October 7th and rapes and pillages and kills, not screaming for land, but screaming God is great, ultimate religious fundamentalism, just wanting to kill Jews. A modern-day pharaoh, of course, in Iran, or at least Iranian leaders, who come across sending 300 projectiles, which one ballistic missile, just one, if it would hit, would kill thousands of Israelis at once. And then finally, as you talked about in your introduction, just imagine what it's like to face the modern-day pharaoh of anti-Semitism, of Jew hatred. I grew up on 106th Street between Broadway and Amsterdam, a very different 1970s Upper West Side than you find today. I went to the Columbia campus to find safety because it was always there. Now can you imagine having to go remote classes, rabbis telling kids to go home because they don't think the New York Police Department or Columbia Security can protect them? This is a very different Passover, and I would say it's an act of sacred defiance to mark it this year.
And I think that we must, as we hear you and identify with you, also remove from these that are doing this anti-Semitism and hatred, from those that are legitimately saying they want to see a two-state solution, they want to see humanitarian aid to people in Gaza, they don't want to see innocent people killed on either side. And I think that that is what people like May Adams was trying to deal with. They have been, I have youth in National Action Network that are Columbia. They have legitimately said they disagree with Netanyahu. I disagree with Netanyahu. Yet are outraged by what happened with October 7th. This has been hijacked by some that are just want to make this about hate and violence. And I think some of those students, and I'm glad to see some are standing up saying, this is not what we're about. We question Netanyahu, we're not anti-Semitic. And I think that I've been challenged in my life that I had to sever ties with people that would make things about being anti-white rather than pro-right.
That's right.
And I think that doesn't take away from what your stand is. It makes your stand strong on moral grounds. And I think that we should not confuse these haters with the cause. But those that are with the cause need to be loud and clear that that is not what they're about.
But Reverend, now we live in a world of false binaries these days.
Right.
You're either the oppressor or the oppressed. The truth is, and you know this as well as anyone does, that none of us is all Moses and none of us is all Pharaoh. We actually have a little bit of each of them in each of us. And the truth is we have to look in the mirror and reconcile those two and say that there's a lot of complications between this. So yes, you can be against policy in a democratic government and still be utterly pro-Israel.
Look, and there are a lot of Jewish...
The problem is, Lauren Leader, let me go to you. The problem is that on Toomey College campuses, it's not. There's not the talk of a two-state solution. There's the talk of wiping Israel off the map. There's constant chants from the river to the sea. There's constant agitation against Jewish students. There's even agitation against Gentile students who have Jewish friends. And the cancellation of Jewish students, the cancellation of Gentile students who dare to be friends with Jews. This sounds, and I'm sorry. We can't sanitize what's going on college campuses, because I know firsthand, and other people that know young kids, children in school, know firsthand what is going on here. If they were only calling for a two-state solution, if they were only calling for a ceasefire followed by peace, if they were only calling for that, that would be one thing. But Lauren, that's not what's being chanted most of the time. That's not the intent. It is hatred for Jews. It is hatred for the state of Israel. I'm sorry. That's a reality. And if people don't believe that, they need to talk to a college student on one of these campuses.
100%. And look, it pains me. Barnard is my alma mater. I graduated from there proudly, and it's extremely disturbing. I think, look, part of what's happening is you've seen this like extreme sort of radical rhetoric that has clearly infiltrated the campuses. And, you know, the students will say, those that are protesting will say that there are Jewish students among them in the encampments, which I'm sure is absolutely true. But what I think it also shows is just I can't get my head around whether or not it's just ignorance to think that somehow it's not anti-Semitic to be chanting from the river to the sea, to be wearing the, you know, watermelon T-shirts, which I saw all over the city this weekend on young people. You know, the watermelon symbol is about from the river to the sea. It is about eliminating the state of Israel. There were chants all weekend, you know, we don't want no two states. We want 1948. I mean, the chants, the constant, you know, even just the signs that you see in these pictures. It may not be physical violence, but the threat of what this means to Jewish students who support the state of Israel, regardless of how they feel about Netanyahu. And I think, look, most American Jews understand how complicated this administration is there. They are deeply distressed at what Netanyahu has wrought over the years. Many of us followed the protests before October 7th very closely in great solidarity with our brothers and sisters in Israel. But this is a totally different ballgame. You know, the whole BDS movement, what are the students demanding? They are demanding at Columbia and at other schools this divestiture and boycott of Israel. Imagine if foreigners around the world during the Trump administration suddenly said we're going to boycott every American company because they support President Trump and they voted for him and they elected him. That is what the equivalency is here. And so the lines that are being drawn on college campuses as they chant this, you know, we don't want no Zionists here. I mean, who are the Zionists? That's 99% of Jews around the world. A Zionist means someone who believes that the state of Israel has the right to exist. So look, I think it's extremely distressing. The universities have an obligation to create a climate of intellectual thought, of challenge. Protest is allowed, but these are private institutions. And by the way, it is not everywhere, right? On Duke's campus, we are not seeing this. At Wellesley, where my daughter goes, the president has been extremely clear. This is a private institution. We are going to maintain peace. We are going to allow our students to study. That Columbia hasn't done that is a shame, is really a stain on them.
Well, you see what's going on at Dartmouth. Dartmouth's been doing it right. They've continued to have dialogue in a way that's been positive. You look what happened at Pomona College. Violence was met with strength from the president of that college. And just the claims are just outrageous. And it is. They're talking about genocide. They're talking about wiping Israel off the map. And I know we got to go, Rabbi, but I got to tell you, whenever I hear about, you know, this attack of Jews in Israel being like white colonists from Europe. I mean, wait, hold on a second. It was white people in Europe that killed 6 million Jews, that burned 6 million Jews to death in the oven. That's what white European colonists did. That's why there's a state of Israel, because Jews were wiped out across Europe by these, quote, white colonists.
No, you're absolutely right. And one of the reasons, and I was saying what I said to the rabbi, that it really comes home to me, is the distortion of movements being hijacked. Let's not forget, you and I talk often, Joe, about Dr. Martin Luther King. Dr. King went to Memphis to lead a march for garbage workers. In the march, some people got at the end of the march and started yelling anti-white things and rioted, which is the reason he came back to Memphis to prove he could lead a nonviolent march. That's how he got killed. Extremists set the scene that led to the assassination of Martin Luther King, which is why we cannot let people hijack what legitimate concerns are and take it another way, because they end up setting up for those that are against all of us to be able to do what they want to do. They are the ones that are helping the people that are Islamophobic and that are anti-Semitic. And they're pushing us that direction, and we must resist that.
Hey everyone, MSNBC has a new and improved app. You'll get real-time alerts and analysis, live blogs, in-depth essays, video highlights, and the best 2024 election coverage. Download the new MSNBC app. Here's how to do it. You tap on the App Store on your phone. You hit search on the bottom right corner. You type in MSNBC. You click on the MSNBC app. You click on Get or the cloud icon and enjoy it.